February 13th in Inglewood, California at SoFi Stadium, where the Los Angeles Rams and the Chargers play their home games.
But Alex, who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl and who do you think is going to win?
Who I want to win the Super Bowl? I want the Rams and I want the Bengals. How about you?
Me personally, I want the Rams and the Titans. I think that the Titans are a very good team and I hope they win. But who do you think is going to win? I think that the Rams are going to beat the Titans.
Yeah, I also think the Rams are going to win the Titans. How about you?
I want the Rams and the Chiefs, and I want the Chiefs to win.
Well, now you heard from us. How about we hear from some Emerson Eagles? Who do you want to win the Super Bowl?
I have to go with the Bengals here.
Who Dey? Cincinnati Bengals.
I think I want the Rams to win the Super Bowl.
Los Angeles Rams.
Bengals on top, baby.
The Rams also.
Rams won.
Rams. I want the Bengals.
Bengals?
Bengals.
Well, I know that the Packers aren't going to be in the Super Bowl because they're not good enough, but I want the Los Angeles Rams, the Rams, to win the Super Bowl.
Joey Burrow and the Bengals.
I want the Bengals to win.
For you.
I don't want the Chiefs to win, but I do think the Chiefs will win the Super Bowl.
Well, if the Bengals don't beat themselves, I think the Bengals can win, but I'm probably going to pick the Rams.
Amazing weekend with all of the wildcard games happening. Let's see what happened this weekend with the wildcard games.
So first, the Rams beat the Cardinals 34-11 on Monday night, January 17th at the Rams SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, eliminating DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray from playoff contention.
Let's look at some stats from that game. On the Cardinals side, the losing team, they did not do very good, only scoring 11 points. The Rams defense must have been doing pretty good because Kyler Murray had 2 interceptions. James Conner tried to do good by scoring a touchdown, but I guess the Rams defense is just too good.
On the Rams side, Matthew Stafford had a pretty good game with over 200 passing yards and 2 touchdowns with 0 interceptions thrown.
And this game was so crazy that even Odell Beckham Jr. got a pass, and he threw 1 pass for 40 yards. That's pretty good for not being a quarterback.
Cooper Kupp also had a pretty good game with an average of over 12 yards per catch. Odell Beckham Jr. had a pretty good game as well with 54 yards and 4 receptions.
And each of them had a touchdown. And I could say this very well. This Ram team is going to be hard to stop. With their defense having Von Miller and Aaron Donald, 2 of the best defenders in the league.
Along with Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. And the receivers being this good, they're the team to beat in the NFC.
I don't know how anyone's going to stop them. The Chiefs versus the Steelers. The Chiefs beat the Steelers 42-21 Sunday, January 16th at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. This was Big Ben's subsequently last game he'll ever play in his career. Big Ben has been an impact player in the league for many years, and we are sad to see him go.
This may have been Big Ben's last game, but he tried his best, and he did pretty good for himself, having over 200 yards and 2 passing touchdowns on the game. James Washington and Deontay Johnson were his main targets, each of them having 1 touchdown. And Juju Smith-Schuster does not get much playing time anymore because he's too busy making TikToks on the other team's logos. And for the Chiefs
side, Patrick Mahomes threw over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns with only 1 interception.
And this game was so crazy too. Travis Kelce also had a passing touchdown.
This passing touchdown was only 2 yards, but it's still crazy to see a tight end throwing a touchdown.
You don't see that every day.
Tyreek Hill had an alright game with an average yard of 11.4 per catch. He had 1 touchdown. Travis Kelce had a pretty good game with over 100 yards and 1 touchdown with a 21.6 yard average per.
And a passing touchdown. He had a great game.
Yeah.
All I can say is that the passing touchdowns were spread a lot. No one player did a lot, and that 1 passing touchdown was to their lineman.
Yeah, it seems like the Chiefs also might be an unstoppable force in the league.
Yeah, they may be the team to beat in the AFC, but we'll see.
We had the Buccaneers beating the Eagles 31-15 on Sunday, January 16th at the Buccaneer Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida.
Let's look at some statistics from that game. On the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions and had a little over 200 yards. He had an okay game. His only touchdown being to Kenneth Gainwell. On the Buccaneers side of things, Tom Brady had a great game with 2 touchdowns and about 270 yards. But their run game really helped them. Keyshawn Vaughn and Giovanni Bernard both having a touchdown apiece. And on the receiving end, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski both having a touchdown, and Mike Evans having over 115 yards. The Buccaneers are a very good team, and they're going to be tested playing the Rams next week.
The Cowboys lost to the 49ers in an amazing upset with a score of 23-17 on Sunday, January 16th at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. It's been a very long time since the Cowboys won the Super Bowl, and it seems like it's going to be even longer. With Jimmy Garoppolo throwing over 172 yards and 1 interception with 0 touchdowns.
It seems like they were carried by their run game, with Elijah Mitchell having about 100 yards and a touchdown, and Deebo Samuel having about 70 yards and a touchdown. The receivers didn't do anything, but that's not really the receiver's fault. That's more Jimmy G's fault. On the losing Cowboys side, Dak Prescott had a touchdown and an interception, and Dak Prescott also had a rushing touchdown, so it seems like he wasn't the problem here. And Amari Cooper had 64 yards and 1 touchdown. This was a very defensive-minded game with a lot of great defense being played.
The Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots 47-17 in a blowout on Saturday, January 15th at the Bills Highmark Stadium in Erie County, New York.
This game was a blowout. Jones tried to keep the Patriots in this game, having 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and both of those touchdowns being thrown to Kendrick Bourne, but it seems like the Bills' defense was too good for them. On the Bills' side, Josh Allen had an amazing game, throwing over 350 yards and having 5 touchdowns, and Devin Singletary having 2 touchdowns of his own. His touchdowns were very spread, 2 going to Dawson Knox, 1 going to Gabriel Davis, 1 going to Emmanuel Sanders, and 1 going to their O-lineman. This game was a blowout, and they're going to have a hard matchup next week playing the Chiefs in prime time on Sunday night.
Stephon Diggs is looking for his first Super Bowl win, as last year they were cut from the playoffs in an early round.
And they're looking for their revenge against the Chiefs, as they lost in the AFC Championship last year.
Okay.
Raiders were beat by the Cincinnati Bengals 26-19 on Saturday, January 15th at the Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. Derek Carr played a pretty good game, having about 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. But the only interception that he did have was to seal the game, which is very clutch. His only touchdown going to Zay Jones. On the Bengals side, Joe Burrow had 2 touchdowns and about 250 yards, with 1 touchdown going to C.J. Uzomah, where he does the worst gritty I think I've ever seen. And Tyler Boyd, who is pretty good. And, yeah.
Joe Burrow didn't have such a good rushing game with 2 carries and -2 yards. No wonder running backs aren't also QBs.
And Jamar Chase had a very good game, having about 115 yards, but not having a touchdown.
LSU boys are back. The Cincinnati Bengals are definitely a Super Bowl contender, and we'll just have to see how things
They're set to play, and they're set to play the #1 seed Titans. We'll see you guys next week when we talk about those games.
On The Los Angeles Rams beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a measly score of 3 on January 23rd. Here are some stats from that game. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Tennessee Titans January 22nd in the NFL Division 1. Here are some stats from that game. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Green Bay Packers 13-10 on January 22nd. Here are some stats from that game. The Buffalo Bills lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime on January 23rd. Here are some stats from that game.
About 3 days since we saw you guys, and the NFC and AFC championships have started. The 49ers and the Rams, and the Chiefs and the Bengals. And the first game we're going to be talking about is the 49ers and the Rams. It was a very low-scoring game, like very high on defense. Jimmy G having about 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, and forcing an interception. And Deebo Samuel, I felt bad for that guy. He played his heart out in that game, having the most rushing yards and receiving yards on that team. And George Kittle played pretty good, having about 30 yards and a touchdown. But Deebo Samuel was the main star for that squad. How do you feel about how the 49ers played?
I thought the 49ers played good. I think that they would have had a better chance if Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball away in the end. On the Rams side of things, Matthew Stafford threw a whopping 337 yards with only 2 touchdown passes and 1 interception. Cam Akers had 13 carries and 48 yards with an average of 3.7 yards per carry. Cooper Kupp had a great game with 142 yards and 11 receptions.
But their other receivers also did very good, with Odell Beckham Jr. having 113 yards and 9 receptions, and Kendall Blanton having 5 receptions and 57 yards to his name.
So Michelle had 1 reception with -4 yards, meaning that he had the lowest average yards on the entire team.
Even though the offense looks like they've done pretty good, this was a very defensive-minded game, only scoring a total of 37 points. And the 1 interception that Jimmy G threw was to number 32, Travin Howard. And on the 49ers side, the 1 interception that Matthew Stafford threw was to number 1, Jimmy Ward, and number 3, Jaquil Tart, I'm pretty sure, is the person that dropped their basically game-sealing touchdown. But since he dropped it, that let the Rams to go down and kick a field goal for the win.
January 30th, the Bengals... Are you okay?
Sorry, I'm just choking like the Chiefs did against the Bengals on Sunday.
Oh!
Alright, with that being said, the score was 27-24 after a showdown in overtime. Joe Burrow, also known as Joe Brr, had 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Joe Mixon had a whopping 21 carries and 88 yards with a 4.2 average yards. T. Higgins had 6 receiving passes and 103 yards with an average of 17.2 yards per reception. Jamar Chase didn't have his greatest game, but he did have 54 yards and a 9.0 average per carry.
And a touchdown.
And 1 touchdown.
Same thing with Samji Perrine, who had 3 receptions for 43 yards, and he had 1 touchdown, which was one of the 2 touchdowns that Joey Burrow threw this game. And for their defense, Von Bell had a very good interception, and Trey Hendrickson, who tracked down Mahomes for that clutch sack, had almost 2 sacks for the game. And B.J. Hill had himself an interception too. And on the Chiefs side of things, Patrick Mahomes threw 2 touchdowns with 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he threw 2 interceptions, which is not his best game. And Jared McKinnon was their main back with 65 yards with 4.5 yards per carry. And the receivers did fine with McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce each having a touchdown. With McCole Hardman having about 50 yards, Travis Kelce having about 80 yards, and Travis Kelce almost having 100 yards. And
defensive side of things,
L'Jarius Sneed caught 1 interception that Joe Burrow threw. And that's pretty much it. Woo! But for that game was very bad. Let's talk about that real quick.
So
The Bengals were down 21-3.